Hello, hi everyone. Welcome. Of course, we will not have a video streaming fan without someone being muted, and this time it was me. So I hope everybody's doing well. I hope that your Thursday was fine. You're maybe cooking dinner right now, or you just finished to have dinner. And I don't know, Karen, did you have dinner already?
Not yet.
So
you're late.
Me too. I'm actually ordering pizza. So I'm glad. There is good pizza in Berlin, Debbie. And yes, everyone, I'm super excited. Karen and I, we're really excited to have here for the first meetup of the year, a bit different from the one that we used to be, but we have Debbie Levitt. Hi, Debbie.
I am also muted. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. So I am following Debbie on LinkedIn for a while, and I can tell you that she is a volcano. She has like 1,000 idea. She is a extra pro on streaming and stuff. So I feel like so like blessed, like you can see, like I am just like a normal girl with my actual background, but she's like all the colors, the branding is really amazing, and I'm really, really happy. And so I'm going to let Debbie get out of stage while Karen and I give the usual and familiar short presentation about our community. Thank you, Debbie. See you in a bit. All right. I should have prepared my screen sharing, but it's almost here. So here. All right. Thank you, everyone, also for staying with us. We are learning, but we are really, really excited. We are live on YouTube. This is our new meetup. I think this, it said like number 30 here, but it should be like number 32, I think. And yes, this is the lady that UX Berlin. And let's just jump into tonight's program because it is really, really full. So this is the welcome. We're doing the welcome. So again, welcome. And as soon as it's over, we're going to have 1 hour talk with Debbie. And her topic is so fantastic, like stop evangelizing UX and want to do it instead. Are you curious, Karen?
I am so curious about this. I'm quite happy to stop evangelizing UX, and I really want to know what I have to do instead. So yes, definitely. Looking forward to this a lot.
Amazing. You cannot see that, but behind the virtual curtain, there is Debbie, who is like really excited as well. But before, let's talk a bit about Let's the 2X. So Let's the 2X is a global community. We want to create a welcoming and inclusive environment that promotes female talent and increase female visibility. We were originally founded in Manchester, and now we have a lot of chapters all over the globe. And just below, you can see like the Berlin organizer team. There is Steffi and I, of course, Lucia and Karen. So something that I like a lot about our team is that we are all over the spectrum. Like we have like research or interaction. I'm doing a lot of PMing lately, so it is really exciting to be here. But we also have a special guest tonight. So please, everyone, welcome Mariana Osaki.
Hi everyone. Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So Mariana is the leader of the Milan chapter, but she's also the leader. What is the official title, Mariana? Leader for
regional director of MEA.
So I thought that it was really good to start the year again by having Mariana say hi and giving a short presentation about what are the plans, Mariana, for 2021 for the community.
Yeah, sure. So this is the second event that is happening in our new YouTube channel. So now we are gathering all the content related to the chapters that are English speakers. So it's gonna be great, I think. We are going to have all the content here on Saturday, February 20th. We had the first event with the chapter from San Francisco. So it was really nice. So I'm really glad. Also, I would like to know that the number there on the slide is not updated. We have now 85 cities around the globe.
See, that's why we needed you here. And everyone, free to use the comment section below during Debbie presentation or whenever you want. We're going to see it, and probably I'm going to be able to pull them here on the screen. So this is really exciting. We need more female speakers. So if you have anything that you want to share, your experience, a case study, tips, tricks, please reach out to berlin@ladies.ux.com. I feel that we have a lot of talent here in the community that I would really love to showcase to the rest of the world. But also just like let us know. And without further ado, I think it's time to introduce Debbie. So thank you, Mariana, for joining us tonight. Karen, do you have anything to add before I bring Debbie on stage?
Nothing to add, just to say thank you, Emanuela, for hosting and moderating this talk this evening. I'm really excited to listen to Debbie and to take part in the conversation as well, the people watching.
Yeah, of course, like we're going to have Q&A after that. So please stay tuned and ask a lot of difficult questions to Debbie, because I think she can get all the difficult questions. All right. So, hey, Debbie.
Hey, let me find my screen share. Hold on. Only share screens with sites you trust. Wow, scary. Okay, you can see my slide, right?
And we are pulling them up. So I'm not going to introduce yourself because I think you're going to do it.
I might say some things about myself.
So, okay, you have the stage, Debbie. Take it on.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Ladies That UX Berlin and, of course, Mariana and Ladies That UX Milan, who had me last year. So I appreciate everybody bringing me in. And just so you know, I'm not going to really watch the chat room while I'm doing my presentation, but I will answer questions later. So I usually ask that people don't use pronouns. Don't go, what do you mean by that? Or I disagree with that, because then when I see it an hour later, I don't know what that was. So just make sure you have specific questions in there, and I'm happy to answer all of them at the end, even if you disagree or want more information. You don't have to agree. Okay, so a little bit about me. Hi, everybody. I'm Debbie Levitt. I've been working in UX in one form or another since 1995. I'm mostly a strategist, architect, trainer, speaker, all kinds of things. And last decade, I worked a lot in the Bay Area in California. We're doing a lot of agency work and contracting. And I am American. I can't fool you, but I am now living in Italy. And clients call me Mary Poppins because I fly in, fix everything, sing a few songs, and then fly away to where I'm needed next. My agency is called Delta CX. And of course, my book is called Delta CX. So why not just name everything Delta CX? And let's see, what else can I tell you? I'm one of Axure's recommended trainers. So if you want to learn Axure, let me know. And I've got, as I was telling the ladies before the show started, I think I have something like 500 slides, and this is only 56 of them. So if you feel like I didn't go into a topic deeply enough, you're right. I didn't. So feel free to ask some questions. Hopefully everybody's seeing my slide changing. Yeah, good. So you can find me all over the place. I am active on LinkedIn, but I do a lot of streaming on YouTube as Delta CX and now on Twitch as deltacx.com. And honestly, Twitch is a lot more fun than YouTube. But I'm usually live Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Berlin time for about an hour. Tuesday is office hours, Ask Me Anything. So, but it's always live, and please get involved. So find me and connect. So let's jump into what we're here to talk about. And by the way, I should also quickly mention, I tend to say CX instead of UX. I say both, but I'm shifting my language towards CX. I think UX is so misunderstood and has such a branding problem, and CX tends to be more respected. I do think CX is a better term for us, but again, that's a battle for another day. So where you see CX, just remember it's CX and UX. So again, jumping in. You know CX is misunderstood, circumvented, belittled, and overruled. And you know what that leads to. I don't have enough time tonight to tell you about all of the Agile and Scrum and other methodologies that have books and training and materials that exclude us. Some don't even mention us at all. A few admit that you'll need UX, but some suggest that the engineering team just needs to read a UX book or study it a little bit. Safe Agile is probably the worst. And they suggest they're a type of Agile, and they suggest that UX is not on the Agile team because we've been too siloed. That's right. They're siloing us as some sort of fix for siloing. So I like to joke that I think someone at Safe had a very bad breakup with someone in UX, and this is the revenge. But it's really the tip of the iceberg of what's been happening at a lot of our workplaces. Our solution has traditionally been to evangelize CX and UX and what we do to everybody at our company. I see job descriptions that require CX evangelism, but that tells me people at this company don't understand or respect CX or UX. Good luck working here. No other role at your company is spending time and effort evangelizing themselves the way we do. Developers are not making PowerPoints to explain why it's important to hire qualified developers and let them write code. QA isn't holding meetings to teach everybody the importance of testing software. It's just us, and it can make us look weird and whiny. And it's not working. There are many things people don't want to be sold: a new religion, going vegan, and the value of CX and UX. So I tried something new. I wrote a 2-day workshop aimed at non-CX, non-UX roles, and then I created short conference sessions out of them, like 30 minutes, 60 minutes, a 2-hour workshop. And since October 2018, I've been presenting at DevOps, engineering, and agile conferences to a non-CX audience. They're mostly engineering managers, developers, QA, product managers, project managers, some business analysts, and some agile coaches. I wanted to see if I could write a program that didn't come off as UX evangelism, but would help them understand us better, see why CX and UX are something important that has to be done by experts and specialists, and give them concrete how-tos on how to properly integrate us into processes. I might be the only UX conference session they've ever seen or heard that didn't try to teach them to do our work in an hour. But before I tell you how it's going, let me give you the 5-minute version of the 1-hour conference session. So I start with what is UX? And if you are Italian, you are cheering for this slide. And if you're not Italian, it says, what is UX? So first I walk them through the short version of most of user-centered design so they can understand 3 key things. We don't just draw boxes on a page. What we do takes time, and what we do takes expertise. I explain that their current process is probably to build what a CEO or product manager wants, QA it, get it on a server, and wouldn't you know, that person sees it and changes their mind. Now you have to rebuild, retest, cycle. Oops, sorry. But if CX were correctly integrated, the process would look more like what's on the screen. And changes of mind can be okay because it's easier for us to change wireframes or prototypes, and retest than to have developers keep rebuilding. I introduced them to my 4 horsemen of bad UX. My registered trademark are in a circle. They are frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction. And I explain how we're looking for them constantly in every area of CX and UX work. Our customers do not want to meet them. I have a section on lean where I explain minimum viable product versus minimum valuable product. And I remind them, take it from Eric, Mr. Lean, the guy who wrote the Lean Startup. He said, what if we found ourselves building something that nobody wanted? In that case, what did it matter if we did it on time and on budget? Go too lean and minimal, and you might build what nobody wants. So it's important to collaborate with UX experts so that product and engineering can better prioritize stories and features to find that balance. Nobody puts CX in the corner. Since discovering the Lean UX book, Safe Agile changed from a methodology that included UX specialists at all levels to us being a recycle your garbage icon in the bottom left of this infographic. We're in the island of misfit toys and clearly excluded from just about everything going on. I've got lots of slides about how UX and Agile work together, and this slide explains all the areas we can fit into an Agile process, from the portfolio level, where we're hopefully killing early ideas that have no customer value, to being on the Agile team, a true partner and collaborator, and sprinting along with them. I talk about how CX and UX can work in sprints and can work into other flavors of software development, whether or not people are using Safe Agile, which is what's on the screen. And we must estimate our own time. People who don't understand what we do, why we do it, or how we do it should definitely not be estimating our tasks, time, budget, resource, or other needs. And if UX is a bottleneck, you need to hire more and the right people, not expect us to train everybody to do our jobs, even though that's what Agile and Scrum books suggest. And I talk about how you can measure how things go before and after your CX revolution, both internally and externally. Externally, relating to customer satisfaction, conversions, app ratings, and other metrics. Internally, like, I bet developers will be able to estimate their time more accurately when working from vetted CX designs versus trying to read a user story and guess how something's going to look and work. And I close by reminding them that what they have been doing probably isn't really CX or UX in the eyes of a CX or UX expert. Many non-CX roles are creating methodologies that mostly belittle, downplay, or remove CX specialists, and companies trying them are starting to notice that isn't really working. Product is garbage. So it's time to try again and get this right by correctly integrating qualified CX and UX practitioners and processes. And scene. That's pretty much what I'm telling these people. You can see more about it on my deltacx.com website if you are a curious cat. Now, I don't ask for empathy anywhere in my presentation. I also don't say design thinking. I don't say, don't you care about real users? Many humans are low on empathy. And these humans typically don't have the self-awareness to know they're low on empathy. So they're sure that they're compassionate, caring, understanding, generous, really keeping the customer in their hearts, even when we see otherwise. They commute with us, back when we commuted. They work with us. They comment on our social media posts. And if there's one thing we should know by now, we can't change them. We can't create empathy or wake these people up. The world sure would look different right now if we could, which means stop telling low empathy people to have high empathy or create empathy. Unless they choose to begin a long and deliberate path of self-improvement, they can't experience more empathy than they naturally have. We need to have enough empathy to see who is low empathy and understand that being outraged that they don't seem to care about users is not how we'll appeal to them. For those people, we'll have metrics and ROI. So this angle has been working. And I love this picture. This guy actually looks like he's having an aha moment. But when I first gave these talks in late 2018, they were a little bit of a disaster. I did get a lot of negative feedback as I traveled the world test driving this. And my favorite negative feedback was not work related, just an advertisement. My other terrible feedback that I remember was I walked out. It was raw UX evangelism and did nothing to explain how it fits with Agile. Well, if you walked out, you probably didn't see those slides, but okay. So I noticed that the negative feedback I was getting back in 2018 was all about feeling sold something. Some people even mentioned this is the same awful UX evangelism they have to suffer through at work. So I started rewriting the presentation and experimenting with different versions of it, and now it gets nearly 100% happy reviews. I don't tell you that for ego. I tell you that because I found that shifting what I said changed how it was received. Imagine that. Where I've got 60 minutes or more with an audience or at a private corporate training, I start with a live poll of what do you believe about UX? All of the choices are negative and they can choose more than one. So you can see people happily voting for things like it's something any worker can do and it's not agile and they steal all my ideas. Now, of course, my presentation will dispel all of these myths, but it's a nice starting point because when I have a full day with people or a half day, this is the ending point. I say, give me some words that describe UX to see how far people have come or if they still believe the same stuff. But I find that after I'm able to present to them, they start to have a different perspective of UX without feeling evangelized to, without feeling sold to. So we have to take a look at how our actions, words, and choices as CX practitioners, managers, and teams can change so that we're walking a new walk, because that'll send a stronger message than, sister, please pray with me now. So that tells you what I've been doing and how I know that typical evangelism often isn't working. So what do we need to do instead? I like to say, you will go much farther being an important part of the team than you will by holding another meeting about how you should be an important part of the team. We spend so much time talking about empathy, put yourself in the customer's shoes, research people's experiences and design for them. But then we don't do that for our own teammates. We don't consider that they don't want to hear another UX evangelism presentation. We don't consider what they need from us. What is their experience? Why is their CX dissatisfaction with us so high? What is their job like when we disappear and don't communicate? Imagine you're that product manager, that developer, that QA engineer. What do they need from you? Well, you don't have to guess or imagine. Find out. We should be using our CX abilities to build a coworker experience that matches everybody's needs. People come up to me after my talks and complain that their CX teammates disappear into a black box for weeks or months. They slap a finalized design on developers and they're never heard from again. Sometimes engineers receive designs they can't even build, and nobody collaborated with them earlier to talk about technical limitations and requirements. We have to stop doing that. Many UX and CX workers are avoiding engineers, probably because it's less than no fun trying to work with the people, often thinking the least of you. But the best way to change that relationship is to keep showing up, keep being involved, collaborate, ask them questions early in the process, show them the work as you go, not because you need their approval, but to be collaborative. Give cross-functional teammates all of the documents that are fit to be passed around outside of your own little world. Make sure they have personas and understand how they're used. Show them customer journey maps, research, customer feedback, your information architecture process, everything. Not because you need their approval, but it'll really help if they see what you're really working on other than drawing boxes on a page. If we only show them sketched screens, how can we expect them to understand that we do more than sketching screens? Get tools in place. tools for communication, sharing concepts, sharing documentation, sharing designs and specifications. Ask for tickets in Jira or whatever they're using. Don't settle for a Trello board or a spreadsheet of issues if everybody else is in Jira. You're on the team and you should be part of their communication and documentation system. Make engineering questions and issues high priority. Teach them they can count on you to provide fast and thorough answers. When those tickets come in or a Slack question or something like that, I try to drop everything. I'm now their bottleneck. I'm blocking the agile team. So I can't say, oh, it's engineering, I'll answer them tomorrow. That officially makes us jerks. So make sure you are not blocking the agile team. The example on the screen is a QA person tagged me in a ticket, and I responded to them within 2 minutes. And I didn't have all the answers, but at least they knew that I was working on it and they had my attention. That really helps the relationship. If we only show up to meetings to fight or evangelize, and we never show up to bring positivity, help, improvement, discussion, and collaboration, then other people get a very one-sided impression of CX. Ask to be invited to the recurring and random team meetings. Go to as many of those meetings as you can fit into your schedule. Work with your manager to improve how you are resourced or allocated so that you can get to more of these meetings. And I know you're probably thinking, I don't want to go to more meetings, Deb. You're crazy. But what I typically do is I will go to those meetings back when we were in offices with my laptop, and I will say, look, I've got work to do, but I'm here. I'm only half listening. But if something comes up that you think is UX or interface or accessibility or something like that, get my attention. I'm here, but I'm only half listening. And I found that a lot of times they were having meetings about things that were in my world. I was now there to answer these questions, and that was much better than the developers going off and making up their own fixes and patches, and you all know what I'm talking about. So go there. So I asked myself, how do I want my CX teammates to see me? And for them to see me that way, I have to be those things. So thinking about engineering, though it's really for all teammates, Debbie listens to and considers engineering's ideas. I've used Mural to hold an ideation workshop with engineering to get their ideas for the product. But that's my style of an ideation workshop, not solution sketching. I don't have anybody sketch in my workshops. I collect ideas in the form of user stories. Many people gave good ideas, and I credited them by name when I used those ideas. Now engineering feels important and listened to. Debbie explains her ideas, designs, and decisions. Debbie collaborates early and often and doesn't blindside engineering later with finalized designs. Debbie is a fun person I like to talk to. She's approachable. I can send her a Slack message anytime and be confident it'll be a good conversation. Debbie has no ego. I can disagree or offer another idea, and she takes it seriously. It may not end up in the product, but I will take it seriously. Debbie makes engineering feel included. Debbie has made engineering see the importance of CX by solving small and large things quickly so their work wasn't delayed. You know what tells teammates these things better than another meeting about how great CX is? When I am these things, hourly, daily, consistently. When you tap into what your teammates need and you meet or exceed those expectations, you don't need to evangelize. They will become your advocate. Walking the walk, who we hire. This is, okay, so this was an actual job description that I got a few years ago from a recruiter. This was a Fortune 100 company looking for a senior UX designer. And it turned out they actually wanted a lead to lead their new mobile UX team to fix their one-star app. Already fantastic. I get a senior title and senior pay to do lead work. Starting well. They wanted at least 6 years of full user-centered design, including research and testing. Okay, I can do that. They also wanted high fidelity prototyping, meaning you must have a prototyping subspecialty and you must be a visual designer. And I also love the idea that while I am leading a mobile team to fix a very broken app, I'm going to have spare time because CX doesn't take long, right? 20% of my time can go to side projects. Well, swallow your coffee because this job also requires that you be a professional illustrator, a subspecialty even in the art world. This goes way beyond purple unicorn. And I learned that the hiring manager is a visual designer. Is that 100% bad all of the time? No, of course not. There are visual designers who totally get CX and UX and manage it very well. But when that design manager doesn't get UX and requires everybody on the team to be an experienced and talented artist, we're in trouble. We might be locking out from our company great people who happen to not be artists, and we might be placing less qualified people into important jobs. I asked the recruiter if the hiring manager would consider getting everything he wanted, minus the illustrator, since it's not totally relevant, and I can't imagine I'm going to have time for side projects while I'm fixing the company's one-star app. But the recruiter said, nope, this hiring manager wants an illustrator. Well, I'm not an illustrator, but I would have done an awesome job in that role if they had allowed artwork to be done by someone with talent and time. So, why would this senior UX job probably go to a great illustrator? Let's talk about what I call the gate. This is something we've got to fix at our jobs. The gate is that one quality, maybe two, that your job requires, and it doesn't even matter what else this candidate can do. If they don't have this, the gate doesn't open for them. You need to be an illustrator. You must have military clearance. There's nothing wrong with having a gate. It's okay to have standards, but I'm suggesting that we stop making art talent the gate for so many CX and UX jobs that really aren't visual designer jobs. If you can't consider someone because they don't have the right security clearances, okay, that's a deal breaker. But we have to stop excluding CX specialists from CX jobs because the gate is art school stuff like typography, color theory, visual design, branding, logos, and illustration. A couple years ago, someone told me they were rejected from a UX researcher job because they couldn't show a visual design portfolio. Your gate is broken. If we want to teach others at our company that CX and UX are unique specialties, we have to hire as if they're unique specialties. We can't give a junior graphic designer some wireframing and then expect everybody to see that CX is a formalized discipline for specialists. Sure looks like anybody can do this. And I've also seen many workplaces thrilled to hire CX and UX juniors and those right out of schools and boot camps, thinking they can throw a lot of work at them and pay them very little. But more than anything, these juniors need mentoring. They need work reviews and help leveling up. They need help with soft skills like presentations, knowing when to pick battles, and how to wage small wars as a customer advocate. They need to learn the lawyer-like skills many of us have developed. But what message do we send our entire workplace when we hire only or mostly juniors and entry-level people and expect expert-level work? Hey, you can do a UX job with no experience. We don't even need other people on the team. But in which department at our company do they hire one or two recent grads to do all of the specialized work? So, yes, I do want to see juniors get jobs, but we have to have the environment in place to support them so that they can have work reviews and help, not just throw them at projects and then bark at them later that they didn't know what they were doing. That's what I tend to see. Now, I've got a couple of slides for all of you who might be in management and leadership. We need strong leadership. For example, managers need to work with managers from product and project because we've got to make sure that we're being brought in during the earliest planning of features and stories. If we're not at the table from those earliest conversations, we're going to be surprised later when we're given junk projects that waste company time and money while building something we know the customer doesn't really need or want. I mean, hands up, how many people here have been told to build whatever this thing is, and it's not what the customer needs or wants, and you know it, and you can't stop the train? When I speak at engineering conferences, I ask a similar question. I ask the engineers in the room, hands up, how many of you knew the product was crap while you were coding it? Every hand in the room goes up. We've got to collaborate early with portfolio and project management to make sure we are headed for products that solve real problems for real customers. Hey, managers, you need to work with leads from other departments to make sure they are letting us do our job. You are welcome to quote the Agile Manifesto principle if it'll help you. Principle 5 says, build projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. We've got to be given the environment and resources we need and be trusted to do our best work, and given the time. Hey, managers, stop pushing people to be jacks of all trades or unicorns. Most unicorns aren't even unicorns. They're great at one thing, they're pretty good at some other things, they're at some other things, and they're bad at some other things. Why would we want anybody who is or bad doing mission critical work? I once met a guy at a conference. He was, I guess he ran a UX team or something, but he was an artist. And he said, he came up to me and he said, I'm making all of my artists learn to code. And I said, do your artists want to learn to code? And he said, it doesn't matter. Artists should know how to code. And I said, well, how do your developers and engineers feel about the quality of the code that your artists are writing? Are you saving time for engineering, or are you giving them more work because they have to check and fix your artist's code? And he blinked a little bit and he walked away. Let UX specialists do UX work. The days are busy enough. Play to people's specialties and strengths. I'm for people expanding their skills if they want to do that, but not because we gave them a surprise job description change, especially one that creeps into the territory of other specialists at the company. We hate when other people try to creep into our territory. Why are we trying to creep into theirs? If you're working from a design system or you happen to be a great visual designer, it can feel fast and easy to work immediately in high fidelity. But please consider more medium fidelity work and earlier testing of concepts before they get their design. It will help for our teammates to see that CX architecture and design aren't visual design and that the two can be separated. We can work on the blueprints of the house before the house gets the interior design. And if things don't test well, maybe the time spent on the visual design could have been semi-wasted. So, great visual design can't save poor UX, and it shouldn't mask it. I know some people disagree with my separations of visual design and other aspects of CX, and that's okay. But since I'm a non artist with a degree in music, I tend to see much clearer lines between visual design and other CX specialties and tasks. But ultimately, if we don't draw more lines between these things, how can we expect others at our company to make that separation when hiring for our jobs? Managers, inspire your teams to create more realistic interactive prototypes. I keep hearing that a click through model like you might make in Envision is enough, but I disagree. Prototyping should bring concepts and designs to life in a realistic way. That's why I design right into Axure. Hashtag not sponsored. I pay them. I don't use Sketch or Figma or anything else first. I go straight into Axure and I see if my ideas have legs because I can experience them realistically. Engineering loves my prototype since it's better documentation than annotated wireframes. If you're great at coding or you use another highly realistic prototyping tool, that's fine. But our screens, flows, error states, and paths and possible outcomes have so much complexity now. Um, We can't just have a click through of the happy path. It's not going to be enough for our work, socializing our work, and definitely not for running usability testing. Usability testing a prototype without a realistic interaction sounds kind of flawed. So, for all of you, I know that maybe for some of you, my next slides might be a little controversial. You're probably going to want to disagree, and that's okay. We can have a conversation about that when I'm done. I'm a little more than halfway done. I know that nobody here is a sheep. You're smart. You're critical thinkers. If you watch me on YouTube, I've got my critical thinking hat. So you're critical thinkers. You're wearing your critical thinking hat. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to say some tough things, some tough love things, and I would say don't dismiss them. Give them a listen and think critically about them. Who knows? Maybe you'll change your mind. Let's say our company has a big product challenge. We need to research, architect, design, test, iterate on something that's really important to the strategy of our company or our brand. There's a lot at stake. We might want to call in a big consulting company, or we've been hiring some good people and we want our workers to handle this. Well, let's pretend I work at your company. I want that big product challenge given to me and my team. I want to research the heck out of it. I'm going to talk to everybody: customers, customer support, sales, marketing, product, engineering, stakeholders. This is a big challenge, and we're going to approach it strategically and thoroughly. After mountains of research, we want time to prototype, test, and iterate. Rounds and rounds of it. We've got to go for quality over speed. Don't give me a week or two for this. This is a serious product or service question at our company, right? I'm putting the band back together, and we're going to be low ego action heroes. But lately, what actually happens at some of our companies instead? What ends up happening is often a design sprint or a team saying they will use design thinking. Hey, we can solve this in a week. We'll just do some exercises. Is it really being solved? And in a week? Design thinking. Do any two of us watching live right now have the same definition of design thinking? Probably not. We know that design thinking is a meaningless term because of what it takes to get a certificate in it. You just have to know there are 5 steps and lots of fun group craft exercises. Nobody judged, tested, or assessed your ability to empathize, how completely you understood the problem and customers, if your ideas were viable and good, or if you prototyped well. Nobody judged, checked, or assessed your testing plan, discussion guide, participants, execution, or interpretation of the testing. Everybody gets a design thinking trophy and is sure they can do our work. I also know design thinking is a meaningless term because no one has ever told me to stop the user-centered design that I'm doing and instead, please do design thinking instead. Remember, we do not guess or crowdsource things like customer journey maps based on imagining what customers might do, or in a group craft exercise where everybody thinks they know what the customer is doing. Our company and projects are too important to be left to guesses and assumptions. Our work is about depth and quality. It's not about checking tasks off a list regardless of how they were done. It's about building a customer journey map because we interviewed and observed the customers. We know what their journey was. We show our proficiency through science and technique. We can't just throw templates and group exercises at problems without care for the quality of this work. These tasks and tools are building blocks, done without science, technique, and critical thinking. They're too often garbage. Design thinking has little to no depth, quality, science, or technique unless you define design thinking as being the same as human-centered design. In which case, why aren't you saying human-centered design? This on the screen was going around LinkedIn some years ago as the UX process, though it was in Portuguese. But you can recognize this as the steps of design thinking, including a mini Olympics of possible technologies, user needs, and business objectives. From what I see people posting on LinkedIn, more and more people appear to believe that if they get certified in design thinking, they do what we do. I saw one post saying that design thinking is a framework that boils down designers and innovators' best traits so that anybody can use them. Just follow the framework and you can do what the best designers do. Can your personal strengths be harnessed into a template that anybody can use and boom, they have harnessed your best traits and abilities? Yes, people actually believe this. And let me ask you this, is that your process? When you interviewed at your most recent job and they asked your approach to UX, design, research, or whatever you do, did you say, I do design thinking, and first, I create empathy? If I looked at your portfolio of work, is that the process that I would see? So, why are we socializing, spreading, and training something that many of us don't even do? When you're brought onto a new project at work, do you say to yourself, yep, time to switch into my design thinking mindset? Of course not. You have CX and UX running through your blood, and there is no off switch. And when I see job descriptions that say you'll need to introduce and evangelize a design thinking process, I have to ask, what process was this team already using? You would have to be doing something pretty terrible for design thinking to be an upgrade from that. You can't walk down one block of a street without seeing the four horsemen of bad UX popping up everywhere in real life services and digital interfaces. Oop, let me take that down. This is the, in the case you've been to Tilburg, Netherlands, this is the don't walk sign in Tilburg, Netherlands, which I'm not pronouncing well. What does this mean? Don't pee in a burlap sack while waiting for the light to change. Do pee in a burlap sack? The four horsemen win again. Not everybody defines design thinking the way it was defined 10 or more years ago, and it's still changing. Now it looks almost exactly like design sprints. No matter what it means today or tomorrow, you will still do what you are doing. It's running through your blood, and I can't come up with a trendy name to give it because it's a unique talent that not everybody has. Here's General Assembly a couple of years ago posting to LinkedIn. It says, empathizing with users isn't just a UX concept. How applying design thinking to code refactoring can lead to a better software experience. They linked to an article, and the article said, before refactoring bad code, engineers should Step 1, empathize with the audience. Step 2, define the problem scope. Step 3, ideate on different solutions. Step 4, prototype. Step 5, test the code. What did engineers needing to refactor code do before someone told them just use design thinking? I can't imagine saying this to developers and having them not punch me in the face. This was another one from LinkedIn. A company proudly proclaimed that the elementary school kids they asked to imagine how people would live and get around on a newly discovered island were the best design thinkers around. Are they doing what we're doing? How about this January 2020 article from Fortune magazine's newsletter? Quote, the coronavirus problem could be solved with design thinking. End quote. That article had no proof or evidence that design thinking could fix the coronavirus, but this author was sure that China, all of it, needed more empathy and ideating. That jumps the shark, which is an American phrase you can Google when something's kind of out of ideas and kind of towards the end of its life. But it also exposes design thinking for how arrogant yet meaningless it too often is. It's bad enough that people think design thinking can replace a thorough UX process. Let's please not show up to other people's jobs or world pandemics and tell them how to do their jobs. And if design thinking is so amazing and can solve everything, coronavirus, y'all, why do we still have it? Why do we have hunger and no clean water in places? Get on it, design thinkers. Design sprints were originally invented by Google and are best known for being used with Google venture startups. The idea behind design sprints is that startups without CX or UX workers can quickly do micro pseudo CX and UX work themselves and decide what they'll build for their MVP. So, design sprints and the MVP are two startup concepts that can go well together for startups. They're not a great match for non startups. We have a CX or UX team that knows how to test concepts without coding them and releasing them to the public. We have a product team that knows how to prioritize and create a product roadmap. And why are we trying to model ourselves after startups, a segment of businesses that fails like 90% of the time? So, design sprints have been evolving and devolving fast. Some of you are familiar with this. I'll go through the short version. It's a 5-day process where you get together a cross functional team, sometimes some outside experts. So, it could be 4 to 10 people in a room. Some people do more. And basically, Monday, you're going to figure out what the problem is. Ask the experts in the room what they know. Pick an aspect of the challenge to focus on. This is typically where people are guessing at customer journey maps. Tuesday is sketch competing solutions on paper. Wednesday is make difficult decisions, narrowing down the proposed solutions and turn ideas into a testable hypothesis. Everybody in the room votes to find the winning idea. But you don't hang design ideas at your desk and ask coworkers to drop by and pick their favorite, right? I sure hope not. Thursday, you'll create a high fidelity prototype. Wow, fully visually designed. And Friday, you'll test your prototype with real live humans. There's plenty to cringe at in there, but I'd like to focus more on how design sprints have started to undo themselves. Version 2 of design sprints now exists. It doesn't replace version 1, it's just another version that you can do. It's a 4-day process that only requires the full team to be there for 2 days. Day 1 is understand the problem and sketch solutions. Day 2 is pick a winner. After that, the ones I've put in orangey yellow, those are done by experts. Maybe that's the facilitator or the UX team or an agency. They're going to do the prototyping and testing, and they're going to tell everybody later how it went. So that gets left to the experts. Design Sprints version 3 also exists. Some famous workshop facilitators found that they were arriving at a design sprint and the problem was not really a problem. It was garbage. Whatever the stakeholder said the problem was torn apart by lunch on the first day. And there goes the design sprint. And probably the money these people would have been paid. So they had to come up with a way to fix that. Version 3 says that for a week or 2 or more weeks before the design sprint, the experts, the facilitator, the agency, the UX team are going to do qualitative research. They're going to do all the work around the problem and validating it. They'll interview people, they'll observe them, they'll make the personas, they'll make the customer journey maps. They'll do all of the customer research based deliverables. And those will not be done or stabbed at by the design sprint attendees. Evidently, that was too important to give to the whole group to guess at. So these things will be made ahead of time, hopefully by research experts and not by someone guessing. Now, if we combine versions 2 and 3, my question to myself was, then what does design sprints version 4 look like? I don't think it officially exists yet, but my guess is that if we had to leave this part to the experts and this part to the experts, it looks like the only thing left is, hey, let's get everybody in a room and have them sketch solutions and pick their favorite one. And I've seen some design sprints that say only spend 40 minutes on that. So my prediction is that today's design sprints will eventually be tomorrow's 1-hour solution sketching workshops. I'll still be against those, but I think that this is devolving. In September 2020, I did a live half day of my Dev and UX talk that I showed you earlier. It was a workshop version at an engineering conference. And what I do as part of that longer version is I give everybody a persona that I made on a real project, and I give them a customer journey map template. And then, especially because this was remote, I polled them on what do you think the persona does first? Because I gave them a scenario. This persona needs to buy insurance, but she's a senior citizen. She's not very good at some of these things. What do you think she does first? Well, the votes usually, I only had, I think, 5 people in that workshop, but the votes are usually all over the place because everybody is guessing what this persona does first. Then I give them around 10 minutes to make a customer journey map. Now, the point of this exercise is not to teach them to do our jobs or to tell them team workshops guessing at customer journey maps are great. Instead, I use this to show them the high risks that companies face when creating documentation or design directions based on guesses and assumptions without having done real research. But this time, before I could get to that point, one of the workshop attendees said, "Serious business decisions will be made from this, and we're guessing at it. If this is what UX does, it makes me lose faith in UX." That hit me hard. Lose faith in UX, not lose faith in the exercise, not lose faith in customer journey maps, not lose faith in goofy team workshops, lose faith in UX. Team workshops teach people we do work by guessing, or that we're incompetent and can't do our jobs alone, or that we don't respect other teammates' time and we love to drag them into endless meetings. Stop doing team workshops. They don't build teams, they hurt teams. If they built teams, every role at your company would run these. Have you noticed that marketing, product, project, sales, and engineering do not run team workshops where we all guess or assume or they need everybody to do some sort of craft project together? Have you noticed product does not call us in for a 3-day sticky note festival where we all guess at backlog prioritization? No, these people have autonomy and power. They collaborate where they need to, and they use their autonomy and power. We need to also. Quickly, let me also burn down the Lean UX book. Lean UX is neither lean nor UX. So let's unpack this. Lean UX is another aspirology, which is my term for fake methodologies, and it turns UX practitioners into, you guessed it, workshop facilitators. Now, for reference, I'm using the 2016 second edition of the book, evidently quite different from the first edition, but here's a few problems that I found with Lean UX and why we should never do it at all. The authors claim they don't want work by committee, but their definition of collaboration means that all work is a team effort done by committee everywhere and always. Excuse me. In multiple places in the book, the authors clearly state that their definition of collaboration is that everything is done as a team. The authors demand that you not give any work to any individual, even if they're highly specialized. UX workers are reduced to team exercise facilitators. There's not a single UX task that the authors suggest a UX worker can do themselves without turning it into a team meeting or exercise. They even demand that specialized UX research and its interpretation be given to the team. For something claiming to be lean, it's high on waste. If you thought you were in too many meetings before trying lean UX, look out. Since every UX task is done by committee, product managers, engineers, stakeholders, and others will be involved in what seems like multiple daily meetings and team exercises. And everybody's equally involved in research, design, testing, and other important UX tasks. And these all occur in meetings of 2 or more people. You can't even work on anything alone. In addition to wasted time, there's wasted documentation, which is surprising for a model claiming to reduce documentation. Meetings require people to read their ideas out loud so someone can write them on a sticky note on a wall. Lean UX is a high-waste, slow-motion process. Over-reliance on what stakeholders want. Here's a quote from the book. Quote, "We found it helpful to begin with a problem statement. These statements are created by key stakeholders as they begin to address the strategic vision for the business. Interestingly, we just learned from Design Sprints version 3 that starting with stakeholders describing the problem or what challenge we're here to address was considered a wrong way to start. If we want to be customer centric, then we must define problems from the perspectives we've collected from customers, not from a stakeholder looking at business goals. These might not be aligned with or even close to real customers' needs, habits, and likely actions. The stakeholder's vision is considered but should not be the main source material. Too much time spent on assumptions rather than collecting or using great data. Many of the exercises in the book start and or end with collecting all of the assumptions everybody on the team has about the customer, the product, how testing went, or something else. This doesn't sound lean. Runs against Six Sigma's desire to prioritize verifiable data over assumptions and guesswork. I can't find any reason to work from assumptions and guesses, especially from teammates who might have no empathy or high biases. And finally, the Lean UX book recommends nearly zero documentation because, quote, we were all in that meeting. Okay, that's not a direct quote. That's me paraphrasing, but it sure feels like a direct quote by the time I'd read the book. We were all in that meeting, so we don't have to document everything. You remember it, right? You were there. So remember, work by committee, democratization, and team exercises are sold as great ways to do team building, but put on those critical thinking hats because, as I said, where are all of the group exercises being run by other domains? We could all chip in on what they're doing. We could all have our say in QA testing, marketing initiatives, product, but they don't run these workshops, which means the excuse of team building is a lie. And imagine if someone you worked with was constantly holding meetings asking you to do their work with them. Would you feel like, wow, that's a really great person who's really good at what they do? Or would you start feeling like, wow, this person can't even do their work alone without dragging me into it? So there's so much for us to consider. Always, always put your critical thinking hats on and consider the outcomes of these things. What will people think of us? What is their impression of us or our work or our profession if we have to keep dragging them into these workshops? So, what can we do instead? And yes, there's a few more slides. I know it's been good to find some slice of what we do and get people to listen to it. We thought design thinking and design sprints would be the new evangelism. We imagine everybody's now thinking about design. But if you asked for time or budget for a very important 4-week research project, will you get that? Because now everybody really understands the importance of UX and thorough research thanks to design thinking and design sprints? Or are you going to hear, just do design thinking, or let's just run some exercises and workshops? Is your company investing in design thinking and adding it to job titles, but they still think user-centered design is bloated, expensive, and taking too long? So remember, get out of the building. Now, with the pandemic, many of us are not even in the building, but gather the cross-functional team, stakeholders, leadership, and hire. Get them involved in what we're doing. Don't have them interviewing customers, but have them observing the research that we're doing. Have them watching field studies or the videos of interviews later so that they can better understand customers' realities. This has to be better than everybody sitting in the office and guessing at what's happening for people. Go watch customers meet the 4 horsemen of bad UX. I also like to use my own flavor of an ideation workshop or a brainstorming workshop, as I mentioned earlier, which collects ideas but requires that each idea is written as a user story. That way, we keep people focused on users and customers and their real needs. There is no sketching in my ideation workshop, so there are no screens or drawings for anybody to fall in love with and wonder later why you didn't go with that idea that we all voted the winner. So awkward. If your company still insists on doing design sprints or design thinking exercises, after they're done, get all of the sketch solutions and move the best ideas through the user-centered design process, whether or not they won the popular vote. I've seen some companies try to circumvent UX after a design sprint and go straight to product or engineering to see if they could get their idea right into the product. Make sure that design ideas are given to you so that you can shepherd any idea with real customer value. Remember that we don't hang ideas at our desks and ask teammates to vote on the best one. We test with real and archetypal customers to determine the best executions of the best ideas. So please don't let things happen by committee or popular vote. Any team exercise or workshop we do must have success criteria and KPIs. Calculate costs and ROI. Watch workshop outputs. What did they cost in the short and long term? Piles of people in a room for days, plus any work done on any of these sketches or ideas afterwards, those costs can add up. Tens of thousands of dollars or more. So, what did these workshops produce, if anything? And why did they fail? Having success criteria and better calculating costs and ROI will shine bright spotlights when the workshop declares outcomes like, everybody really enjoyed design thinking, or we had camaraderie and stakeholders felt involved. There are many less expensive and more productive ways to have results like that. And finally, shift terms to what you really mean. Talk about CX and UX without selling or evangelizing. Refer to your tasks and process. Every job at our company is complex. Don't water UX down. Shift away from terms that don't accurately capture or represent what we do. Stakeholders and the business sometimes have low or no empathy for customers, which is why saying customers are having problems doesn't instantly get you time and money to fix everything. So, our best bet is to tie our work and its outcomes to ROI and the achievement of business goals. But right now, we're just a staff job that looks like we don't make the company money. We're assumed to be a pair of hands that just draws what the business analyst overprescribed in requirements. If the project is a success, thanks to the BA or product manager that defined what this would be, thanks to engineering who built it so nicely, thanks to marketing for coming up with some initiatives and tracking metrics and creating visibility and awareness. Everybody else is the golden child and nobody even knows what we do. At many companies, this means our new best friend is probably marketing. They have the business's ear and wallets. They have mountains of goals that we can help them achieve. We'll partner on KPIs and metrics, and they will help us get some of the time and budget we need. Marketing can help us tie business success to our work. We can also partner with marketing on work they often do now, but should not be doing alone, like designing, building, and maintaining the public website. We can also test copy, emails, and other marketing things so that the public sees the ones that are more likely to meet or exceed goals. Even if marketing wants to A/B test, let's make B a better variant that's been vetted. B doesn't have to be a guess. We're going to make marketing look good, and they're going to make us look good. They will help tie CX to goal achievement and ROI. Some companies complain that CX and UX aren't focused enough on business goals. They're not making stakeholders happy. They're too focused on customers' needs and problems. Have you ever heard that? You're too focused on customers and you're not speaking the business language? Well, the alternative to not being focused on customers is building what people don't like or need. And how's that been working? Why would we do that, even if it made someone's manager happy? Don't fall for that bullying and decide to shift what you're doing to try to make stakeholders happier. But also, we shouldn't burn stakeholders at the stake. That's not why they're called stakeholders. Here's the real issue. Why doesn't our diagram look like this? Why aren't our business goals and customer needs more aligned? Or why do they start aligned and end up on different planets once someone has overwritten the requirements? If your company wants to be agile, then you are collecting and interpreting customer feedback as you go. And that feedback might force you to rethink the product, the features, or the roadmap. Agile claims to want that. Agile says once you learn you're building the wrong thing, you be agile and switch gears. If the business learns that we're not delivering what customers need, why isn't the business shifting gears and changing their goals? We can't make customers change what they need from us, the problems they hope we'll solve, and the tasks we need to accomplish. The business needs to be better aligned with what we know from customers. And again, that's where research is going to be hugely important. The more we're guessing, the more we're doing flawed research, or the more we're avoiding research, acting like it's too much time and money, the less we know about our customers. We're risking a lot of time and money to guess when we could be doing proper research and knowing. We're going to need partnerships like marketing and some fresh allies who can push for these transformations towards customer centricity. We'll need to work more closely with business analysts so they can get out of the habit of overwriting the requirements and trying to turn us into short order cooks who just take orders. So remember that great customer experiences mitigate risks. I'll just load up the page. The risk of building the wrong products and services, the risks of burning engineering's time, budget, and resources, the risks of causing customers confusion, frustration, disappointment, and distraction, meeting the 4 horsemen of bad UX. The risk of burning time and money on customer support, social media managers, and all those people that try to calm people down and help them. The risk that marketing is wasted and sales can't sell this, and the risk of being reactive and out of touch with customers instead of being proactive and predictive. These risks are huge and expensive for our company, and all of them can be mitigated by better customer experiences. So strategize, research, plan, test, and implement better products, and you're winning. So we can improve our world. I'm not the only person saying these things. More of us need to speak up and act on what's going wrong, and we can try to push our boats in new directions, but we've got to be speaking up. Many of us didn't like the Lean UX book and we said nothing, and now it's everywhere and it's being forced on us. Many of us thought design sprints weren't the right way to go. We said nothing. Now they're everywhere. A lot of us didn't love design thinking. We wanted to do regular UX, and now it's everywhere. We have to stop being silent. I also wanted to quickly mention the 9 core principles in my Delta CX world, just in case you feel like this matches you. Our highest priority is customer satisfaction, quality over speed. Don't get trendy. Forget the buzzwords and the gurus. We are grounded in proper research. Success relies on low ego action heroes. Collaboration with respect. Let's break down silos, but don't feel pressured by any methodology to give up your autonomy and do work by committee. Play to people's strengths. It's okay to specialize. You don't have to be a jack of all unicorns. Customer touch points. Every interaction a customer has with your company adds to the story they tell themselves and others about your brand. We must deliberately architect all of these. And the cambiata, which is an Italian word for something that has changed. It's also a music term, music majors out there. And I use it to mean we must strategically take the best path to achieve all of these above things, even if that path is non-linear. Think critically and be a change agent. Go forth and be these things. Fight for them. Join the adventures. And that is the end. I will stop sharing my screen and see what kinds of questions there are.
Hi,
Hey, Emanuela.
Debbie. Oh my God, this was so good. And I'm so surprised that I didn't disagree on too many points. So,
There you go. You're
yeah,
allowed to disagree.
I know. And I think it's a great thing, right? When you can disagree with people. But I actually was agreed on many points before I took notes.
Okay. I'm also looking at the chat room. Good to see Naz here. And Naz liked my drawing of my dog. Thank you. That's the drawing of this dog. Yeah, I like to say all of my artistic talent ended up in music. I am sadly a truly mediocre artist, but I could lie about it if I wanted to because I've been on Photoshop since 1994. So when people say, how many years of Photoshop do you have? I say 26. But I'm a crappy artist. Can I say shitty? I'm a crappy artist.
You can say shitty too. Like, no, I can relate to that. Like, I'm not an artist, and that's fine with me. I always fine with recruiter and people around the world, but if they're not okay with that, like in the job description that you show us, they're lost. But they're lost, meaning like for their products and for their customers more.
Yes, everybody loses. Yeah, everybody loses when the gate closes and great people are not considered for jobs because we weren't illustrators or sculptors or we weren't going to do marketing SEO. And so I did that was yesterday's podcast, right? Who watched my show yesterday on YouTube and Twitch? I think yesterday was I did 26 slides from my upcoming huge training that I'm writing for HR, recruiters, sourcers, staffing, and hiring managers. And I did the worst UX job descriptions I've seen so far and my rules for building jobs for us. So there you go. I want to answer Rachel's question, if that's okay.
Yes, I'm going to put it on screen.
Super. Thank you. So Rachel, nice to see you, says, what are your thoughts around evangelizing user research? We have a challenge where we need access to customers to do our jobs, but what if stakeholders won't give us access? So there's a lot of answers to that question simultaneously, at least from my opinion. So number one is I still suggest staying away from things that feel like evangelism. People don't want to feel sold on something. I would say that you have to do some user research to prove the value of user research. If people don't understand why it's important to talk to customers, you're going to have to find some sneaky ways to do it. When you say they won't give you access to customers, how are they blocking you? Now, I don't know what you do, but I would be going out there and I would be finding customers anyway. I would go to, and there's also some secondary research you can start with. Interview customer support, interview sales. Why are we losing sales? Why do people leave us? Customer support. What are key problems people are having? But in some cases, you have to go a little bit guerrilla with it to prove that it works. Sometimes if you can find it, so we were talking about this on my show on Tuesday, and Dr. Nick Fine said, even if you start with kind of the wrong recruits, even if you start with like friends or family or people you know who are customers of this, find them and do a little bit of guerrilla research with them, and then be able to show some of the results of that and some of the videos from that and say, look, these are some of our real customers. Yeah, I just found them through my social network or whatever. Look at these people. They're struggling with this. Now, if that's hard because these are surgeons or politicians or something else, then of course it's hard for me to give you the best answer without knowing more about who this is. But I think that in general, the evangelism is tough. And one thing that I recommend to people is instead of evangelism, start talking the business's language: money, time, customers, goals. So see if you can write something up that shows that having knowledge about customers is going to lead us to have better strategies, goals, initiatives, make better decisions, guess, and to see if you can show this is the cost of guessing. I like to show people something that Six Sigma calls the cost of poor quality. What does it cost our company internally and externally when we create the wrong thing for customers? You can Google that. You'll see lots of stuff about it. But basically, it shows how internally there's going to be bad culture, bad morale, bad process. There's going to be waste. We're going to have to redo this when we learn what the customer really needed because we didn't want to find that out up front. In general, I try to prove things to the business by showing the risk of not doing the research, and also make sure you've given them a clear plan. Sometimes their idea of research is, the old R&D teams from the Middle Ages. Oh, you need 2 years to research and come up with this. Make sure they understand this is a 3-week project or a 2-week project, or a 4-week project, or a 3-week project where you'll have something to show them each week. Make sure they know what this is so they don't imagine that this is something outlandish. Those are some of the things that I would try. So, but you can always ask again, or, ask the 8-ball.
So we have more questions that are coming, and this is really exciting. So I'm going to pull Susa question. She's always coming to all the Ladies That UX. I'm glad that she's joining remotely as well. So she said, what can I do if there is not enough time for proper research and development that's already started?
Right. So other than getting a new job, I would say many of the same things that I just said would be the same for you, that we're going to have to document this. We're going to have to document that we started building a product without good knowledge of what is the right solution for customers. We started building a process, product or service or system or feature based on someone's best guesses, or based on what the highest paid person wanted, or based on what a stakeholder said, or based on what the business wanted to push people. I'm trying to encourage people to document everything. And that way you can say, here are the risks of that. The risks of not spending, and again, have a plan, not spending 3 weeks on having proper research, or 3 weeks on research and 3 to 4 weeks on design and iteration. By not delaying this 2 months, and again, because we didn't plan for it, now it seems like a delay. But if we had planned for it when project managers and program managers and portfolio managers knew this project was coming, if we could have planned for it earlier, we wouldn't be delaying. But say, because we didn't spend this time, we run the risk that later on, use my slide for the risk slide at the end. We run the risk that customer support is going to have to help people who can't use this, or don't know how to use it, or it still doesn't solve their problem. Our team is going to be delayed late. So later on, our team might have to stop the next feature to go fix this feature. What kind of waste of time and money is that? There's a lot of things that we can try to show to these people that are aimed at predicting and mitigating risk, waste, burned time, burned money, burned customer trust. And some companies won't get it, and you have to move along, because ultimately the company that doesn't get UX is probably not one we're going to stay at too long. In general, we want to work somewhere that understands what we do and is going to make time and budget for at least some of it. But if developers are building before research has done any research, the only thing you can hope to do is maybe get involved in some of the testing. Say you'd like to run some of the QA builds by some of the customers, and then maybe there you can show them this is going in the wrong direction. If your company's claiming to be agile, remind them of Agile Manifesto principle number 2, and that we're supposed to be gathering feedback and feeding it back into the system. And if we're going in the wrong direction, change project requirements. Agile actually calls, I know no one can believe this, Agile calls for changing project requirements if our customer feedback shows we're going in the wrong direction. Maybe you can get involved in testing and show that they're going in the wrong direction. And if we don't stop the train and go in a different direction, this will be a waste and the wrong thing for the company.
I just want to add something that, I think that the Agile Manifesto per se has a lot of great idea. The problem is always like the implementation of how things got transformed in the real world, right? I mean, in the theory, from my point of view, at least, of the Agile Manifesto is great. The practice, how people are applying it. And the Agile Manifesto has more than 20 years.
Yes.
And it's kind of incredible that we still don't get the right stuff. But we have more questions. One is from
Great.
Anna. I put it on the screen.
What do you think about convincing very high up in the hierarchy stakeholders? I cannot really involve them, make them feel my process. I have to go with a slide deck. So again, very often stakeholders are mostly swayed by businessy things, time, money, efficiency. Again, I feel like I'm going to give the same answer to everybody every night, and you're all going to be like, Deb just says the same thing to everybody, but you all really have variations of the same question. Another thing that I do, especially with stakeholders and teammates, is what I said earlier in the presentation, which is go talk to a stakeholder and say, what kind of information can I deliver to you that would really help you? What information do you need about our customers, their habits, their needs, their tasks that would help guide you to create the best strategies or the best initiatives? So I would say go find out what they need. You might be surprised. It might be what you thought, it might not be what you thought. A slide deck may or may not be what they need, because my next question would be, when they tell me what they need, I would say, and how do you like to get that information? And then work from there, because you might be surprised. So I would say convincing people, try everything I just said to the other two people, but also engage with those stakeholders and say, there's so many things that we as researchers or we as designers can show to stakeholders. What's the most meaningful information I can give you, and how do you like to get that information?
There is already a follow-up from Anna.
So does this count as evangelizing? Because you started a little bit into not evangelizing, or show, don't tell. So again, to me, evangelizing is, and I've seen this happen at many places where I've worked, where we get people in a room and we do a PowerPoint on why UX is great. I don't want to do a PowerPoint to stakeholders on why UX is great. I want to show them results from something that we did. That's what I want to show the stakeholder. The stakeholder wants to see results from something that we did, or some sort of prediction of what the results are going to be from something that we're going to do. The stakeholder does not want to see a PowerPoint about how great we are and how important we are and all of that. They really, really don't. You can ask and you'll learn that they don't. So I would say I still say stay away from the evangelizing, but find out, what does a stakeholder want to know, not about UX, but about the customers. Don't make it about you. Try making it about the customers and users. Hey, stakeholder, you probably want to be better informed about our customers and their needs and the changing market, so that you can make better decisions. And there's a lot of research that we do around that that's different from marketing's research. And so I don't know if you're a researcher, Anna, or not, but hey, stakeholder, what kind of information can we bring to you that's going to help you get the knowledge you need and the business intelligence you need, so that you can better prepare strategies, goals, initiatives, and make decisions, so that and so I would go more from that angle. I hope that helps.
I'm going to pull the question from Emily, and if you still have some time, Debbie, if you can go
Oh yeah,
a bit
I blocked
extra.
off the rest of my night. We're here till midnight, everybody.
Oh no, I have to eat dinner.
Oh, that's right. You guys didn't have dinner.
All right.
Hello, Ameline. Hi, Debbie. Great presentation. Thank you. You're a great audience person. Do you have experience or heard people working in an innovation lab and trying to evangelize UX in that type of structure? So it really depends on the innovation lab. I've seen some where UX is naturally a part of that, and UX didn't have to evangelize because they were invited to an innovation lab type of exercise or group. If there is an innovation lab or group or exercise or workshop and you're not being invited to it, I have a lot of immediate thoughts about that, other than get a new job. But my immediate thought is, they must really not understand what UX does if they're not inviting us to an innovation lab. Now, I also have some negative opinions about innovation labs, because I think the word innovation is being thrown around a little bit too loosely. We forget that innovation really means something nobody has ever seen before. How often has anybody at any of our companies come up with something that nobody has ever seen before, versus the incrementally better thing than the last thing we have? So I'm not sure. Sometimes my heart is not broken when I'm left out of innovation lab, because I ultimately think it's garbage. But I think that if UX is not being included in innovation lab, remember, for some of you who are having these questions, this is also a good opportunity to talk to your manager. Sometimes this is not your problem to solve. Sometimes you don't have that power or authority, or you don't feel right going to some other team and going, hey, include me, check me out. This can be for a manager, and hopefully you have a good manager. And if you don't, another reason to leave your job. But I think in some cases, the I'm not being included in things might be for the manager to deal with, especially if it's that high level stakeholder or somebody else who's putting together the innovation lab. But again, if the innovation lab thinks, do I think I can evangelize UX in the innovation lab? That's hard because sometimes our job isn't innovation. Our job is ultimately creating something that solves customers' problems and improves the tasks they're trying to accomplish. That might not be innovative, but it would be amazing if we actually did it. Who can think of a product they use that is so good that it was like it was designed just for you? No, maybe you can think of something, but in general, our world is garbage on fire. So I'm less concerned about innovations because right now I think that's theater. I think that's theater, and I think it's fake, and I think it's a word everyone is throwing around too much. And I would challenge them to calculate what they are spending on these labs and how many true innovations they have come out with. So I don't know if I'm not sure you can. I'm not for evangelizing in general, but if you're not being included in that and you think you should be, maybe talk to your manager.
A lot of good fan. I don't know if you know, Debbie, but there are a lot of innovation space in Berlin. So from of innovation group or like space or team, mostly from automotive companies, Germany, or finance companies. So I think that your answer was pretty great. Hannah has another follow-up, if you don't mind.
Of course I don't mind. Keep it coming, everybody. The questions are free.
Tonight, only tonight. Not checking.
No, every Tuesday on my channel I do office hours, so you can find me on Tuesdays. Anna says, what is your trick to explain the value added by user research in comparison to market research? That is hard only because the way I sometimes explain it, I accidentally make marketing look bad. And I don't want to do that because I want them to be our friends. But market research very often is... how do I say this and not insult anybody? It sometimes goes in the wrong direction. So first of all, we don't rely on surveys because surveys are too often badly written and badly interpreted. Marketing tends to love surveys, and surveys can be manipulated to say anything you want. Marketing... So the way that I try to explain it to people is marketing very often is trying to figure out if people will do a thing. If we did this, would you buy it? If we did this, will you pay for it? If we did this, will your mom want it? Now, all of these questions are bad, and a UX researcher would never ask them because they're asking people to make a prediction about an unknown future and possibly even about a product they haven't even seen. We know these are garbage. If marketing wants to do them, marketing can, but I would probably try to gently find a way to say to someone, what if marketing isn't right? What if marketing asked people, would you use this? And the bunch of people they happened to survey were polite and said yes out of being polite. Maybe it's just a cultural thing and marketing found lots of nice people. What if it's not true? It would be really important for us to just dive in a little bit deeper. Or sometimes I try to explain that some of the differences between marketing and user research is marketing very often goes for the quantitative. Marketing will go for 56% of people said this and 78% of people would do this. And I try to say, well, we're missing the whys and the hows and the whats. We know how many, but do we really know? And could we ask some better questions? How can we can't make a decision based on X% of people. We don't know what to do. And user research would guide us on exactly what to do and make for people rather than guessing at it just because a certain percentage of people happen to answer a survey question a certain way. The example that I give is I worked at a company where a product manager came to me and said, 27% of our mobile web users who search for items on our site are not filtering search results. So we need to build something that will force them to filter their search results. And of course I said, well, that doesn't sound like that makes sense. Can you take that 27% and can you find me any additional data? Can you find me, slice out that 27%, and can you find if they are complaining more, buying less, shopping less often? Can you find me a problem that these people are having? Because just because 27% do a thing doesn't mean this thing is a problem. And of course, they never answered my question, and they forced everybody to build this thing, which ended up failing and had to be removed. And of course, I had documented that this thing will fail and will have to be removed, which makes me not everybody's best friend. But I try to remind people that just because there's a percentage or data or statistic doesn't mean we understand why. And UX really wants to know why, so that we know the right directions to go in without guessing. Because if we just know 27% of people do a thing, what's broken and how do we fix it?
I love it. I don't know if Karen wants to add something because she's a researcher.
All I want to say, you've answered so many great questions. One thing I love about Ladies at UX is you feel like you're among people who really understand the problems that we all face. But I just want to say that talk, I felt like you had been a fly on the wall in my company for the last 2 weeks. All of the conversations that we've been having, I've got so much out of that talk. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. I know I always like to say, if 85% of people agree with 85% of what I've said, then hopefully we can work together to make some change.
And I love it. I'm going to ask you one last question, unless there is more coming through the chat, especially because my pizza just arrived and I know that my partner,
pizza.
Don't worry.
Italians hate cold pizza. Okay.
I know, so I need to be quick. So, oh my God, there were so many, but at the beginning of your presentation, you say that CX or UX is often seen as a black box. But somehow, and this is just like my theory / assumption, and I think that that's something that the UX community kind of agrees, right? We know that this can be a problem. You can see that we are going somewhere, doing our drawings and stuff, and then we come back like, here, build it. And I think that's why a lot of things like Lean UX, design thinking, they all say like, let's play together. We're all friends. Let's play together. So do you think it's a sort of overcompensating? Like, is that something like all those workshops, are that a way to overcompensate a problem of the black box?
I think the workshops are overcompensating for a different problem. I think it's my hypothesis that the workshops are overcompensating for, wow, everybody hates me. Everybody at my job doesn't get me, and they don't like me, and they don't want anything to do with me. And I think people thought if they ran workshops that were fun, because notice these workshops are not like, let's get down to work and fucking do this. It's always like, la, 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 hearts and flowers, sticky notes and fun, and guess at things and make up bad things before you make up good things. And let's have bad ideas, and then let's have good ideas. And I think that what happened was we all started tap dancing, and we all started thinking, how can we get people to pretend they're doing some piece of what we do so that they will like us? I think this accidentally turned into primary school lunchroom. You know, why won't people eat lunch with us? Why do they freaking hate us so much? Let's hold these fun adventures. And so I think that what you're saying has some truth too, that it's overcompensating for, we were in a silo. Look, we're not in a silo now. We're going to have you do everything with us, and we're super, super fun. But I think that it's also overcompensating for, everybody hates us. Nobody wants to be around us. Nobody wants to work with us. They all want to make decisions without us. So let's just involve everybody in everything. And you also hear this from the democratized movement. The democratized people originally were saying, let's make sure we share our research work after it's done with everybody. And I said, yes, that sounds good. And then they changed what democratized meant to, let's make sure that everybody on the team is planning the research, recruiting with us, executing the research, interviewing people with us, interpreting it with us. And then I'm like, oh shit, no, 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 I don't want that. I don't want people who are bad at research to do it with us. So I would say in general, the workshops appear to be, whenever I do slides on workshops, I always show children gluing popsicle sticks together and children tracing their hand to draw a turkey. That's very big in America. I don't know if you've ever traced your hand and then put a beak on it. And, somehow we turned UX into that. And I think it's actually hurting us worse because who has respect for what we do, especially when we're teaching everybody, you can do this. You don't need any education. You don't need any knowledge. You don't need any experience. You don't need any best practices. You don't have to know anything about information architecture. You don't have to know anything about accessibility. You can just sketch stuff and we'll get a few people to say it was great. We'll vote for the winner like it's American Idol, and then we'll just put it out there.
I think that's a great way to end the evening. And I was wondering if she can rewatch the talk about the hiring on Twitch. I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, so Twitch is only archiving 14 days of stuff. So I don't have a Twitch URL that I can put up, but on YouTube, I'm Delta CX. Everything is archived there. I have hundreds of hours. It will be in the live streamed podcasts playlist. Twitch is archiving the last 14 days, I think. So you'll be able to see some of the things from there. And Twitch, I'm deltacx.com, all written out because some gamer was Delta CX. So please follow on Twitch. It's a lot more fun, deltacx.com. And again, I stream every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Berlin time.
Amazing. That's also the time of my stand-up at 6:30 p.m. But that's a topic for another day, Debbie, I guess.
Yes, the ceremonies. Stop with the ceremonies.
All right. I add a bless. Please, everyone, go and follow Debbie on LinkedIn. She always posting a lot on deltacx.com, on Twitch, and everyone else. But keep in touch with us as well. We are Ladies That UX Berlin. We are now using Eventbrite, but maybe we're going back to Meetup. We're still kind of deciding. And we're using the Ladies That UX in English YouTube channel today for all the English content, I guess. We're on Twitter with Ladies That UX Ber, and I want to do a shout out to Steffi, who always find a lot of super nice link and share it back with the community. And the Facebook private group, you need to answer the questions if you want to be there. Otherwise, I'm not going to accept you. And where you can share a lot of ideas, job opening, and other things. I think it was a really good experiment. And thank you so much, Debbie, for joining us tonight.
Thanks so much. Thanks to everybody at Ladies UX Berlin. And I hope to see you all online somewhere until we're safe enough to be around each other.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks. Good night.